Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast with myself, Benjamin Bloom, and the main man, the EFL's greatest pundit, Sam Parkin, at the back end of a 3-game week. We are here to discuss all things about the best league in the world. Sam, you caught up? You managed to process that huge chunk of action this past week?
Just about, mate. I look a little bit tired, don't I? It's not because I've just been, travelling to and from games. I think it's because I did 20 lengths this afternoon at a snail's pace without any goggles on in my local pool. So I look like I've either not had enough kip or already started my alcohol intake of the evening. I can assure you that I haven't. Just
if it's any consolation, I had a fill-in at 3:30 and they stuck a massive needle in my gum. So I can't feel half of my face, but I can feel the just
everything for the cause. Basically, is what we're saying here tonight, isn't it?
Oh, we should say thank you for joining us on Tuesday. For those people who are live and in the chat on YouTube, hello. Let us know that you are there. Get involved. We'll go full Q&A at the end of the show. But first of all, we have round 8 to talk about. I think on Thursday night, we just about managed to get round 6 and round 7 covered. But, Sam, here's what went on in the EFL Championship this past weekend. Round 8 across 4 days, Friday to Monday. Starting Friday night, it was Birmingham 0, QPR 0. Less said on the watch-along. Bit more action in Ipswich 4, Blackburn 3. It was Leeds 3, Watford 0. Maybe sending a bit of a message there to everybody. Leicester 1, Bristol City 0. They're certainly sending a few messages to the likes of me who doubted them a few weeks ago. Middlesbrough 2, Southampton 1. A lot to say about that one. Plymouth 6, Norwich 2. Rotherham 1, former leaders Preston 1. They are not top anymore. Swansea 3, Sheffield Wednesday 0. That was a first win for whoever was going to get that one. West Brom 0, Millwall 0. On Sunday, it was Stoke 1, Hull City 3. And take a bow, Bluebirds, Sunderland 0, Cardiff 1. 9-point week for Cardiff. And last night, we went 4 days. It was Coventry 1, Huddersfield 1 in Darren Moore's bow. Sam, 3 9-point weeks, Ipswich, Leicester and Cardiff. 1 0-point week for Southampton. I wonder, who have you picked out for this week's Parkin's Pick? So, which story, topic do you want to start this podcast off with, Sam?
I'm a simple kind of guy, Ben. I'm going goal gluttony. I'm going for Plymouth Argyle.
Plymouth 6, Norwich 2, and a hat-trick for Morgan Whittaker. And we've bigged up Norwich. And Plymouth made a load of changes in midweek and lost. There is a lot to talk about here. What a win for Plymouth. Before you start, Sam, 2019-20, Norwich were in the Premier League. Plymouth were in League 2. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I just think if Stephen Schumacher has ever had a little bit of heat on him, it was probably Thursday and Friday of last week after the Bristol City game. All the changes, quite a lot of criticism coming his way. And obviously, I think he's developed a bit of a reputation during their title win last year as a bit of a tinker man. And I think he was able to get away with it in League One to a degree. Almost certainly got away with it 9 times out of 10. There'll probably be examples that the Argyle fans would point towards where maybe they dropped points last year because he made 1 or 2 many changes. But I thought this was a big moment in his young managerial career, and to change the system to go back to what got them all that success in League One was really interesting. And both he and David Wagner spoke quite openly about it after the game, how problematic it was for Norwich, but also why on Stephen Schumacher's behalf, he went for the 3-4-2-1 in essence, and it was to saturate the middle of the pitch. Norwich's wide players do like to come in field. I had a little look back at Fasnacht and Jonathan Rowe's heavy involvement in goals so far this season, and invariably it is picking it up in quite narrow positions rather than hugging the touchline. So I think Stephen Schumacher was concerned about them dominating that area of the pitch. He wanted bodies in there, so he added his 2 holders. That partnership of Randall and Houghton that we know served them really well. And then Azaz and Whittaker forming that little box midfield to make sure they weren't outnumbered in there. And then winning the ball, not letting Norwich make headway down the spine of the pitch, and then turning them around and using the pace of Whittaker and Hardy in particular to really terrorise those 2 centre-halves who, yes, lack a little bit of pace, and that was really evident at the weekend. So it was a brilliant game plan. I think they went a bit longer as well. I think the goalkeeper probably kicked Hazard more often than he has so far this season. I noticed that the right-sided centre-half was stepping all the way up, and they were often aiming towards him. So that was slightly different because they wanted to roll out and build from the back so far this season. So not to say that he might not go back to the 4-3-3, but this was the first time in the 8th game that we'd seen the old system, and they run out 6-2 winners. So I thought it was a big day for him, and he passed it with flying colours.
It's not a coincidence, is it? We marvelled at it last year, how they just obliterated their XG with all of these goals that were seemingly sort of from the edge of the box, shot right into the corner. And Whittaker obviously was the poster boy. And you look at a couple of early shots for his first 2 goals. How do you stop that, Sam? The quick break shot from the area, edge of the area type thing?
Oh, it's very, very difficult, isn't it? I suppose you maybe have to take a slightly deeper line than Norwich took the other day. It's matching the runs, condensing that area of the pitch, I suppose, just being aware. You see it so often. If a team has a slight Achilles heel, then a team will play on that and they'll cut balls back into that area. So I think it's probably asking your defensive midfield players to cover areas, to be on toes of the centre halves. And I think that's also a little bit of a problem at Norwich at the moment. I think that Sarah, and obviously I played with Kenny McLean, lovely footballers, but I think the manager got it wrong on Saturday. I think making a change at half-time, taking off Hwang and bringing on Adam Forshaw on, I think that showed that they needed a little bit more steel in the midfield. They pushed Sarah on one to play just behind Ida, and I'm not saying that's the way they'll go, but I think in the last 2 games, the balance has been off for Norwich. I think they missed a more defensively minded midfielder in this game. And I think in the previous game, there's an argument to say that the Gibbs decision didn't pay off because they looked a little bit toothless with him playing as a number 10 in the previous game behind Ashley Barnes. So, yeah, I think that probably added to Argyle's success at the weekend. And obviously in the second half, they rallied to a degree. Edie gets himself a couple of goals. So he can certainly take confidence from that performance. But as a whole, they're not going to be my cause for concern today. But Norwich's last 2 games and the way that they're missing players and players are dropping like flies, it's a bit of a concern.
Can Plymouth go through the entire season at the... I don't want to rain on their parade because 6-2 is incredible. But you know what I'm going to say? 9 points at home, 1 point away. Obviously, do you want to win all your home games or not? Yeah, but what do you see in terms of that balance between home and away output?
Well, I kind of run out of time, I'll have to be honest. But they look to have created pretty good number of chances on the road so far this season. I think... at Watford, if memory serves me right, it was a game of few chances. Adam Randall had a good opportunity for them, but then in the other 2 games, stacks of shots. Certainly at Preston, and was the other one at Birmingham. I think the numbers suggest that their luck may change away from home, but not to suggest they're going to get anywhere near the points return that they're going to get at home park. That is going to be their strength, and yeah, interesting to see how they go this weekend in terms of the setup. But yeah, this was a really good response. And as you said, players that know that system, the partnerships as well. You know, the partnership in the middle of the pitch, the two wing backs, Edwards and Mumba, Azaz and Whittaker, Dan Scarr back at the heart of a back three, performing really admirably. So yeah, it was back to the old, really, to a degree, even though the opponents are different and they would never have envisaged hitting 6, but it was a stellar display.
Absolutely. Take a bow, Plymouth. Hat-trick, 6 goals. Plymouth are Sam's Parkin's pick for the week. Get involved in the comments. Let us know your worldie of the week, and we'll find out what Sam's is straight after this. So, worldie of the week, Sam. Always splits opinion. Get yours going in the comments. What have you got for me this week, Mr. Parkin?
Well, I think it was slim pickings this week. So I'm going to attempt a bit of debate, a bit of needle out of you. So I'm going to tell you the game.
Okay.
My worldie of the week comes from Portman Road, Ipswich against Blackburn. Where would you go if I'm telling you that this is the game where the best goal was scored?
Probably, if I'm being completely unbiased, probably Smodic for the little roll one way and then the other first time finish into the corner. I can tell by your face that that's not what you've picked. What is your worldie of the week, Sam?
That is the incorrect answer. The answer, mate, is the winning goal by Mas Luongo.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Well, I really enjoyed Harry Clark's goal for obvious reasons, mainly the celebration, which I thought was fantastic.
Extra, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Hugo's a good shout. That's just come up from Dave Fevs. That's a good shout. That actually passed me by. And I thought Broadhead's finish was just symptomatic of what he's doing week in, week out, instinctive. But I think context comes into my decision this week and the difficulty of the finish, because you got to recognize when that's traveling towards you that your touch has got to be assured and then your striker's got to be quick, because he's being closed down and the ball is going to jump up off the turf. So another fraction higher, that's going into the home supporters behind that goal. So it had to be touch finish, obviously pressurized moment. Blackburn had done amazingly well to get back to 3-3 and it looked beautiful. Do you know what I mean? Angling into that top corner just as he's being closed. So I thought, in the context of the game and the quality of the finish, those two things combined, I think he just edged a few other goals. Finn Azaz has just popped up on my screen.
Finn Azaz is fair enough, but we've just bigged up Plymouth for 5 minutes, so you'll understand our thinking there.
Yeah, I thought that was a incredibly brilliantly taken goal by Finn Azaz, and I thought it was interesting. Stephen Schumacher said he's one of the brightest footballers. I think that, I don't know what the terminology exactly was, but basically takes on information incredibly well. Really switched on footballer, and it was step over drag, or maybe the other way around. It was Duffy who was left on the deck anyway. It was a beautiful goal, but Mas Luongo for keeping that Ipswich momentum when they could have drop points, I thought was the pick for me.
Outstanding. So Luongo is the goal of the week. We'll get to talk a little bit more about Ipswich and Blackburn when we get through to the predictions and whatnot. But let's lower the tone, as we always do at this point each and every week. It is time for Cause for Concern. Now, bear in mind, everybody watching and listening, that we covered Southampton extensively, and they are 4 straight defeats. But Sam, I was hearing some boos elsewhere in the Championship this week, and that's where you've gone, isn't it? What's your cause for concern?
I think this is a big moment for the show as well. I'm going for Stoke City. Tell them why it's a big moment, Ben.
Because week 1, Stoke won 4-1, and Stoke were Parkin's pick, but we don't happen to be those type of people that go back and use revisionist history. I'm always interested, Sam, when you say something one week and then 8 rounds later you're saying the opposite. I think you learn more from situations like that. So to preface what you're about to say, week 1, loads of new signings, great start to the league. Financial stuff wiped clear in terms of the FFP. Here we go, Stoke. And then 7 rounds rather later, we're going 2-0 down at home to Hull, and boo, boo, boo. That, to be honest, I said this on the radio on Stoke today. There's always that thing when 2 goals go in bang, bang, quick together. It's a bit of a perfect storm for the home fans. But talk to me about Stoke and what your concerns are here.
Yeah, and the third goal was a bit of a mess as well, wasn't it? A heavy deflection. So it may be flattered Hull to a degree, although they were very good value. So, yeah, I mean, 1 point from the last 5 games says it all. I'm going to take those 4 goals on the opening day against Rotherham out for a moment. And 4 goals they've scored in the last 7 games, which is equal with Sheffield Wednesday for the least in the division. So there's clearly a firepower issue, if you like. There's not been a goal by a starting striker, whether they've gone with the 1 or latterly they've gone with this 3-5-2, which has caused much debate in the last 2 games. I think, Ender Stevens being out left back, left wing back is a problem. They're undercooked in that department. That is clear. So that's not necessarily on the manager's head. And Daniel Johnson, as you can see there, has played out there for the last 2 games.
Not a wing back.
Not a wing back, no. So that's a little bit of an issue. The back 3 haven't looked particularly solid. Obviously, they've shipped the 5 in the last 2 games. But the creativity in the midfield, when I look at that midfield there as well, I don't see much going on there in terms of creation. And essentially 2 wide guys up the top at the weekend. And it wasn't until I thought Wesley came on. He had 4 attempts. He came on very early, that said, but he worked the 2 centre-halves, gave them a bit more of a threat, of a physical threat, but no goal from a centre-forward so far. I think that tells the story. And the problem he's got now, or probably a nice problem, is Vidigal missed the Huddersfield game. He came in off the bench in this game against Hull. He may have to revert to the previous system to get Vidigal back into the team. He's their top scorer on 4 goals and has looked like a really promising signing. So I think there's a frustration that we're this far into Alex Neil's tenure now, and there's not really a settled style of play. The shape, I say that loosely because the shape is going to change from game to game. That is what managers need to have in their armoury to a degree. But I think there's a frustration that the team is changing so frequently from game to game rather than just those little alterations, which, if you can stick to a team, give or take, you're going to get a little bit more gelling, a bit more consistency, you would think, over the piece. At the moment, it's a little bit all over the place. So big concern, really, after what was such a promising opening week to the season. What are your thoughts?
Well, the thing I don't understand is, like, I'm going back to 2018, and they've got the 3 years parachute payments, and you'd say Gary Rowett, okay, just got Derby in the playoffs, good championship manager, didn't work. Nathan Jones doing great things with Luton up at the top of League One, didn't work. Michael O'Neill, a bit more experienced international manager, didn't work. Alex Neil almost kind of, we can't say too much, but kind of headhunted after taking Sunderland up. Every one of these managers that comes in, you'd say, okay, they've got a chance of turning it round. But it seems like, I don't know, and you can't say every year, oh, he needs his own players, they need to gel. I don't get how none of those well-qualified championship managers and international managers and people doing good things at the start of their career in the EFL, is there something deeper that I'm not seeing?
No, I mean, it was, forever seems to be the most tempting bet of the last 3 or 4 years, and the surest way to get egg on your face, because I've always been at this stage of the season.
I just put them 12th now.
Oh, do you?
then I can't be that far wrong. Yeah.
I always feel that this is the year. This is the year it's going to turn, surely.
Yeah.
And then we get the same sentiment and the same comments from managers. I'm not tarnishing Alex Neil with that brush at the moment, but it feels like that hangover has been like ridiculously long. One other point I wanted to make, actually, yes, I think there's a bit of a lack of goal threat probably from the midfield. And obviously, the player that started the first few is not available. Dwight Gale's been sporadic appearances. Wesley doesn't look like he's going to be trusted from the off. But the numbers suggest that they are creating chances. I mean, they're 11th for shots. That's 8th best in the area. 8th for shots off target. They're 11th for XG4. 11.7 goals, and they've only scored the 8. I suggest it's a bit more of a finishing problem, maybe, and that they have passed up opportunities in games. Obviously, this is only 8 games in, and we're not looking at a lot of data and a lot of games to play with here. But you would expect a team that's only scored 4 goals in the last 7 games to be right at the foot of every metric in an attacking sense, because I'm sure Sheffield Wednesday are right down there, and Stoke certainly aren't. So it's a concern, and I think it's a problem putting the ball in the back of the net. How that's going to be resolved, maybe, just maybe, he'll revert to maybe a 3 behind the central striker at the weekend, get a bit of flair, get a bit of dynamism from the wide players, and that could be enough to get a favourable result. But it's been a horrendous few weeks.
Agreed. 4 defeats in 5 for Stoke. They are our cause for concern. Sam, just so we can take this in, there is the league table, and unprecedented at the top there to have 3 teams over 20 points. And you can see a strange 5-point gap this early in the season. Leicester and Ipswich, incredible starts there, 7 from 8. I spy Leeds United creeping into a playoff spot, and I think it's 1 defeat. Well, you can say it's 1 defeat in 8. I think they're 6 unbeaten, perhaps. No, Hull are 7 unbeaten, and Preston are 8 unbeaten as well. Cardiff, massive 12 places they've gone up over the past 3 weeks. Birmingham, a little bit of a drop off from the start as we go a bit further down. Plymouth back into the top half after that ridiculously big win. And we can pick out a few underachievers there, Sam. Southampton is the obvious one, a year 1 parachute team. Watford, a year 2 parachute team. We've got 2 playoff finalists from recent years. They're Huddersfield and Coventry. Stoke, we've just spoken about. And a playoff semi-finalist and finalist in Swansea and Middlesbrough down there as well. Is there anything that table is kind of yelling at you before we go on to next round of games?
Oh, I'm sure that managers and players and fans are quaking in their boots as to what I'm going to select as my cause for concern. But there's a few that got away today. I mean, West Brom were in my thinking, but I mean, they're just perennially drawing games, aren't they? And that could turn. They passed up, obviously, quite a few good opportunities in that draw with Millwall. I think Coventry's the obvious one as well in terms of a bit of noise coming from the fan base. I'm sure that's very split, and I'm sure there are people that would back Mark Robbins to the hilt. But there's been a few disappointing displays. Again, quite a lot of draws. So, and I was quite enthused when I saw the new signings in the end of the summer. You know, a few of those early games. The AFC Wimbledon game I was at in the cup. They ended up losing late, but I was quite enthused about Haji Wright for one, and I've seen him coming in for certainly some question marks, some criticism after a few lackluster displays. So keeping an eye on them. I suppose Middlesbrough Southampton was the big result. I think both of us went for a narrow Southampton win. Certainly I did. And I thought that was interesting. Michael Carrick essentially going with 7, I think, of the guys that he had last season. So that spine of the team, the 2 centre-halves, Howson in the midfield. Coburn was obviously off, I think, on loan last year for a period. But it looked, Jones, McGree, more of what we saw last season. So I don't know if that's a realisation that the quality's been in the building all along, or whether it was just he wanted to give the new signings an opportunity to bed in, which is natural. But I thought that was an interesting moment from the weekend that they got the win, and it was a lot of the guys that we'd waxed lyrical about last year.
And there's these two horrible graveyards coming up, isn't there? October international break is in 3 games' time now. So from October the 8th, I think a couple of managers might be wanting to switch their phones off and not speak to the owners. And then, Sam, literally bang, middle of November, a little bit earlier, I think, than normal. So nice little run into a transfer window if anyone does want to make a change. And we've only had one managerial change, and it was very much mutual consent with Mr. Warnock being replaced with Darren Moore. So lots and lots of eyes on those international breaks and various sort of managerial positions. Right. Do hit like if you're enjoying the show as we go. We are now going to look ahead at round 9, which starts on Friday night. If you would be so kind as to pick your mouth-watering matchup, stick them in the comments and we will choose ours and tell you all about it in a minute. So, a playoff semi-final from League One from a couple of years ago there, Sheffield Wednesday versus Sunderland on the box on Friday night. Also, I would say on the box, but let's say on the radio, because our friend Mr. Parkin is going to be commentating on this one, Southampton versus Leeds. Then in the 3 p.m.s on Saturday. Remember, this is the start of a fresh 3-game week going into that international break. So we're going to do it all over again. Bristol City versus Stoke, who we just talked about. It's Cardiff versus Rotherham. Huddersfield versus Ipswich. Inform Hull versus our Parkins pick, Plymouth. It's Millwall versus Swansea. Norwich versus Birmingham. Preston versus West Brom. QPR, Coventry. And Watford versus Middlesbrough. And on the Sunday, it is... why can't I think of a player who played for both Blackburn and Leicester? Someone will do it in the chat for me. No, it's not going to... the Paul Dickoff derby. There you go. Blackburn versus Leicester City. Let us know your mouth-watering matchups. What do we got here? Sheffield Wednesday versus Sunderland. We're not into predictions yet, guys. I'm scared being a Leeds fan. I still expect us to lose to Southampton. Saints versus Leeds. Feels like this is a must not lose. I think we've got that nicely set up for you, Sam. Let's get into your mouth-watering matchup. What you going for, fella?
Yeah, mate. Down to St Mary's. Southampton Leeds, I think, is the standout this week.
It seems too obvious the way this is going to go, doesn't it? You've got one team really stinking the place out, got no confidence. All the games are going the same pattern. Mistakes from unforced... Well, I'll get you to say whether I'm right to say unforced errors, because teams are all over these players hanging around on the ball at the back, aren't they? So maybe they're forced errors. And then on the other hand, you got Leeds, who just to me look like they're about to start purring. They look nice and settled. They look nice and relaxed with what they're doing. They've already been doing it for a few weeks. A couple of draws into the bargain, but I don't think they're far away from a winning run, Leeds. So it just seems like we'll go into the predictions, but there's a lot of quality at Southampton, isn't there, still? And that's either going to turn or, yeah, Russ Martin might be one of those guys turning his phone off on October the 8th or November the 16th or whatever it is. What are your thoughts then, Sam?
Well, straight away, this is a ridiculous statement to come out with at the start of this. It's either the worst possible game for Russell Martin, especially the way that the front players of Leeds close and set the tempo for their side. I think they're incredibly energetic from the front. I think it's the most possessions won in the final third. So that's not music to Southampton supporters' ears straight off the bat. But I genuinely believe it's going to be a brilliant atmosphere. If Southampton start well and can get a goal or just put on a performance, this wretched last month could quickly be forgotten. That's all it takes in football. We know that. So it's still in the players' hands, really, to start well and get the supporters behind them. And yes, they didn't get the result in Middlesbrough, and it was probably deserved on the balance of chances. I think Middlesbrough had the better chances, but the balance of the team, I think, is better with Charles at the base of the midfield, Armstrong back in that forward line. I know him or Shay Adams essentially are going to have to play wide in the system in its current guise, but I think it was players in their preferred positions as well as you can get it. And yeah, the onus is on them to produce in front of their own fans, because another heavy defeat, and there are going to be murmurings. And as I said on previous shows, I don't think it's rip it up. I don't think that's conceivable that it's going to be ripped up. It's just working on the training ground, slightly different rotation, slightly different passing moves, patterns. Sorry, that's what I'm looking for. And I'm sure it will turn for them. But yeah, this is a dangerous game because Leeds are incredibly energetic in the forward positions. They've got Cooper back now as well. Camara played his first game the other day alongside Ampadu. So it's not just the front players who we were so excited about a few weeks ago. The whole spine of the team, the whole 11 is coming together now for Leeds. And just to finish on those front players.
Yeah.
You could argue, what did they pay for Ruta? 30 odd million?
Yeah, 35 million euros, I think. So we've got plenty of Leads in the chat. They'll correct me, I think.
And then Pirro, he could be the best, couldn't he, in terms of a converter of chances. I mean, the nonchalant way he finished that chance the other day, I mean, yes, he should score, but he just caressed it far post with his side foot. And Ruta, I mean, there's a bit of the Steve Claridge about him. The way that he rolls his socks
exactly
down.
What you mean. He's way stronger than he looks as well, isn't he?
The way he moves, but my goodness, he's got good feet.
It's a good shout, that. Yeah.
He's got lovely feet. He looks so full of confidence. That step over, the little drag back, and the pass in for Jadon Anthony, that's the assist of the weekend, wasn't it? So, yeah, I mean, in the chat again, if there's a better front player in the division than Joel Perreault, I'd be interested to hear people's take. And then Ruta cost 30 million. So they could have the two best front players in the league.
Yeah, I'll just respond to Jay's comment there. He said, I said after the Ipswich game that Leeds weren't playing Farker ball. Yeah, interesting to see if that changed now. They're getting there, aren't they? Because the thing we saw from Norwich under...
he was playing Farker ball the other day, wasn't he?
Oh, wasn't he? Just. Well, I'll get your professionalised take on that. First touch by Mr. Farker, which went all over Twitter. But I don't think they've played it yet, because Norwich, not only did they slice through teams with quick attacks, they controlled games, didn't they? Dominated the ball. If you attack them, you'd have a high scoring defeat. If you low block them, they'd eke you out in the end with Buendia and Pukki. So that's what I'm going to be expecting to come at some point down the road, with Farker plus year one parachute team plus Leeds and that front line. And we'll get into the predictions in a minute. I'm concerned for Southampton. I don't think this is the opponent they want at all this weekend, Sam.
No, and it'll be a really vociferous away support. You know that with Leeds, they'll create a great atmosphere. So if there is anxiety within the home ranks, that's going to be incredibly evident. So they need to start the game well. I mean, that performance the other day, I think it was 17 shots to 4 against Watford. It was incredibly dominant after a period where Watford did okay, blew them away with Nonto, Dan James, Somerville. I mean,
that's what Norwich used to be like with Buendia and Pukki, Sam. Just dominate those numbers and just wear you down in the end, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and as a foil, Joel Perreault is he can handle the ball. He'll play the little intricate stuff that Daniel Farker likes. I remember sitting at Carrow Road when Daniel Farker was in his first season, maybe. Still had James Maddison, I think, at the time. And he was getting a little bit of grief, and he was playing all these kind of diminutive little technical footballers all close together, quite narrow, like David Wagner's gone actually recently. But I think that Joel Perreault can handle that. Do you know what I mean? He can handle the ball into feet. He's a bit silky. So he gives them a different option with all the dynamism from the wire players and potentially what Ruta's got. yeah, the big man's going to get an absolute bundle of goals. And obviously, Russell Martin had him at Swansea, and I'm sure there must have been a conversation. There must have been some kind of approach because
one little WhatsApp message, surely, Sam.
Yeah, surely. I don't know if there was a bid, but they obviously went for Ross Stewart in the end, which will prove to be a really good signing.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
it'll prove to be a really good signing. But my goodness me, they could do with him right now, and it's always a little bit difficult to swallow as a fan when you're signing someone who's injured. And we've had a couple of examples of this. Tom Cannon as well, I think's got a stress fracture, has he not, in his spine, so he's going to be out for considerable.
Not the one, is it? So who are you commentating with on Saturday, Sam?
As professional as ever, I don't actually recall.
TalkSport 2, yeah.
TalkSport 2, yeah, 12:30 kickoff. It could be Nigel Adderley. Nigel is often on these games, who, again, master of his craft.
Excellent stuff. We get into the predictions after this, but first, it is player to watch time. Get yours in the chat. Who's your player to watch this coming round? And let's hear from Sam after this. What you got for me, Sam? Who are you looking forward to seeing this round in the Championship?
Well, I cleverly omitted him from my goal of the week chat. I am going for a man who's celebrating his first goal of the season, his first 3 points, Charlie Patino at Swansea.
There you go. You can see him celebrating his goal there. It's an interesting one, Sam, when they come on loan down, and Arsenal is a huge club, and you often think, unless they're Reece James or Harvey Elliott and they're coming at 17 and 18, they're going to bounce back a few times. They're going to become available like Cameron Archer maybe, or Rhian Brewster, to someone with money, or are they going to end up in the Championship in the end? But I agree with you. Charlie Patino at Swansea has started the season well. Tell us more about him.
Yeah, well, he obviously had a spell at Blackpool. I saw him a few times actually, and didn't always stand out enormously, but I think this is someone that they're so excited about at Arsenal. He's someone that's been spoken around for 2 or 3 years already, I think, and he's 3 assists so far this season. Only Dan James at Leeds has got more. His first goal was an absolute beauty, I thought. 4 unbelievable touches. If you haven't seen it, Jamal Lowe plucks one out of the sky, threads him through, and he takes a touch with his left foot, which is his natural side, his stronger side, and the dink is absolutely exquisite on his weaker foot. So, yes, you can probably relax a little bit when you're 2-0 up and coast into a victory, as Swansea were, but I thought it was a brilliant finish in a new system. I think they've played it maybe once this year, but 4-3-3. Obviously, Duff's persisted with the wing backs in the opening weeks of the season, and it's not worked. So I thought this was a really interesting switch from the gaffer, and the balance of that midfield in particular, with Grimes, who will sit, and then Patino looks like he's more box to box, so a little bit like Conor Gallagher's probably been playing for Chelsea or not playing, depending on your opinion of how they're toiling at the moment.
Your superior knowledge on all things Chelsea,
and Jamie Patterson playing kind of as a bit more of as a 10. So I think it probably lacks a little bit of steel. So that calls upon Patino actually to get his foot in, which he can actually do quite well. But yeah, he's very easy on the eye. Different from Grimes, both left-footed, but different from Grimes in that he can go past people from deep. So if he is kind of in tandem with Grimes on occasion, he can beat the press and he can skip past people. He's got lovely balance and what have you. So I thought he was worth earmarking, because I think it was worth going for a Swansea player on the back of that victory, and his goal really made him stand out to me. And with a visit to the Den in prospect, you know, the technical players, that's when you've got to showcase it in the atmosphere when tackles are going to be thumping in. Can you keep cool and can you play your natural game? And I think he scored there. Actually, I think I recall seeing him score there for Blackpool. So he'll be going to try and replicate that again.
So are you telling me if this system is slightly different? Because we loved Luke O'Connell on the ITV show last year that Mike Duff developed. And the way he developed him was he had everybody pressing up further. He had this one midfielder sitting back. But from what you're saying, that's not going to be what Patino's going to be able to do if Matt Grimes is there and he's in a 4-2-3-1. So it's going to be a slightly different look. So that comparison's probably not an accurate one if he's going to stay with the back four like you've suggested.
No, he was very good, wasn't he, Connell?
Brilliant. I thought he would be in the Championship this year. They've done well to hold on to him.
Yeah, he was very much like the ball progressor, wasn't he, in that team? Lovely range of passing. Yeah, I think Grimes will do that job, although be interesting to see if this formation remains or if he just picked it for that game against Sheffield Wednesday to get up and running. But yeah, I just thought it was quite interesting, the profile of those players, because it says to me that they're missing a bit of a natural ball winner in there. But I think Patino is the complete midfielder in essence. I think that's what his aspirations are, to be able to be a ball winner and then also show that wonderful technique that he's got. So yeah, one to keep an eye on, because I played with Jamie Patterson and I played with Matt Grimes, and I wouldn't accentuate their strength being one of their strongest suits, if that's anywhere near a sentence, but you know what I mean. So I think Patino's probably going to have to stick his foot in at times.
Just quickly to finish on Charlie Patino, I know you've not got a crystal ball, but Arsenal are so good and so light years ahead of, say, a Blackpool or a Swansea. How does this? I assume he's on a long contract at Arsenal. How does the maybe close season next year or the following year look for someone like Patino, when, without wanting to again rain on anyone's parade, it's going to be so hard for him to play for Arsenal, isn't it?
It is, but it's perfect for him, isn't it, to get the 40 odd games in the Championship this year. And there's great examples in the Arsenal squad still. I think in Nketiah, Smith Rowe and Nketiah, brilliant examples of players that had similar routes. So it can happen. It's up to the player, isn't it, to keep developing, show consistency, and then I suppose get up to the level when you go back to Arsenal. If he gets an opportunity in pre-season, for example, next year, and he's standout, you'll be around the squad. It's as simple as that. But yeah, it's obviously very, very tough to break through. And the reality is, the majority of these players will end up in the EFL and start that journey that I did, try and get back into the Premier League by going around the houses. And yeah, there's loads of success stories and some that won't quite make that journey back.
100%. Right, everybody, are you ready? It's predictions time. Right, get involved in the chat. Normal request. Try and stay on the game that we're on as we try and rattle through nice and quickly. I'll click as many of your predictions up on the screen. Try and put the teams in for me as well, else just a random loads of numbers. If you're hearing this on the podcast, why not come and join us live on YouTube? If you're here right now as well, do hit the thumbs up button. Right, so let me bring these up on the screen. Let's rattle through. Obviously, if you're listening later in the week, we're recording on Tuesday night. We don't know what's happened in the League Cup game, and we hope no one's vital players have got injured or anyone's had a horrible defeat. So we'll just go on what we know. And what we know, Sam, is Sheffield Wednesday are not very good. Sheffield Wednesday versus Sunderland, Sam.
Yeah, it was. Is amused the correct terminology? It was quite funny watching Sunderland miss all those chances. Not that I've got anything against Sunderland, but you just knew. You just knew. And then Luke O'Nien had who was it? It was Dan Ballard, wasn't it? Who scored for Cardiff?
Mark McGuinness. Sorry. Wrong
team. He played for the other team. Anyway, Luke O'Nien had him, McGuinness, and then it just kind of hit him on the head and obviously absolutely limped into the corner. So we all knew that was coming. But Sunderland are going to bounce back here. Maybe an improved Sheffield Wednesday just by laws of averages. I'll go for a 2-1 away victory. And Southampton against Leeds, the game I'm going to be at. What do you reckon?
I'm heavy on Leeds, Sam. I'm bullshit about this one as well. I think probably Leeds by a couple of goals. I think it's open. I will go Southampton 1, Leeds United 3, and I will bat straight over to you, Bristol City versus Stoke City.
Really difficult to call, I think. I'll go for Bristol City to go back-to-back at Ashton Gate. I know it doesn't happen too often. Someone will probably say in the comments it happened a month ago or something, but I think they'll just get across the line 2-1 Bristol City. What about Cardiff against Rotherham? Nobody goes 4 from 4, do they?
Well, what about Cardiff and Rotherham? We can't have a Championship Chicken podcast without you predicting Rotherham to win. Although great result from against Preston. But look, come on, Cardiff is the hot
I'm just trying to
hand.
get Matt Taylor on this podcast, mate. That's why I'm doing
Get
it.
him in. Cardiff are the hot hand, so I'm gonna back them, Sam. They're back at home, aren't they? I'm sure they would have taken a point at Sunderland, but brilliant 3. They've scored in every game as well. Cardiff. I think it's only Preston, Ipswich, and Cardiff that have done it. So I'll back Cardiff. Cardiff 2, Rotherham 1, and thank God I don't have to do Ipswich. Darren Moore's Huddersfield versus Ipswich. Sam, what are you saying?
I just think Ipswich will be too strong. This incredible away form right now. I think they'll get a few goals here. I will go. Huddersfield will be, relatively buoyant. I think after a good display in the second half last night, I'll go 3-1 to the Tractor Boys there.
Sorry, amusing comment there. Cardiff Rotherham game abandoned. Please, we don't want that happening again after last season. Sorry, Sam, you're about to set me up.
No worries, mate. Hull City against Plymouth Argyle.
Well, if it was at home park, I'd be all over Plymouth, but I do like Hull at the minute. We've mentioned Plymouth exemplary at home, 9 points out of 12, 1 point away from home. So I'm on the Tiger train here, if that's a thing. Plymouth will score because they're absolutely ruthless, aren't they? So we go silly, Sam. Hull 3, Plymouth 2. How about that? Millwall versus Swansea, Sam.
Back down to earth with a bump, I'm saying here. I think Millwall on the back of a couple of good results, 4 points in 2 games, 3-1 to the Lions. Can you scroll me up so I can set you up with Norwich against Birmingham?
Norwich versus Birmingham. That one's caught me out. I'll make Norwich favourites because they're at home, although they've not played well the last games. But you know, I think I might have to go down the middle, Sam. I'm not entirely sure on this one. Without Barnes and Sargent, I know Norwich a bit blunt. And was Johnny Rowe carrying them a little bit in the first month? I don't know. Birmingham. Well, John used to said himself on this very podcast, hard to play against. I'm going to go Norwich 1, Birmingham 1. Although that's the one I've found the most difficult so far. Preston versus West Brom, Sam.
I think this is as difficult, and this is my curveball of the week. We should maybe start a new feature, shouldn't we? Curveball of the week.
I'm in here every week, don't you? I love it.
I am going Preston to get beaten by West
No.
Brom. It's the end of the road. It's going to be Preston North End 0, West Bromwich Albion 2. I'm going for. Right, West London, QPR against Cov.
Yeah. Cov, how many games in a row have Coventry drawn now? It's loads, isn't it? QPR, I keep saying every week they're better than I expected them to be, but I didn't expect them to be very good. So that's kind of damning with faint praise. I keep backing Coventry to win and get going, and they never do. I've been wrong every time. So I might have to go draw again, Sam. I'm so sorry for being dull here. Let's go Desmond. QPR 2, Coventry 2. And we will hand you a Chris Wilder derby. It's Watford versus Middlesbrough.
Theme of the show this week after the Lord Mayor's show. I am going Watford to turn up and put on a bit of display and more disarray in the northeast on the way home. Watford 2, Middlesbrough 0. I'm going.
And there should be over the page, Sam, if you want to tee me up for the very last one.
Yes, indeed. The David Speedy derby.
It's better than Paul Dickov, isn't
He
it?
did play for Blackburn, did he not? I think he did. Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think he was promoted with them. In fact, he scored. Don't ask Derby fans about it. He scored in the playoff against Derby in the semi-final. A bit of a dubious goal, if
I remember being at Wembley for him to win a penalty, actually, which was a dubious penalty, actually.
Okay.
One of my first ever visits to Wembley. Anyway, I digress. Blackburn, Leicester.
I mean, if Ipswich Leicester's anything to go by, it's just going to be as open as anything. Both teams to score for sure. Someone's just put 3-1 Leicester in there. That sounds vaguely plausible. 2-1 to Leicester and both teams to score. There we go, guys. Right, before we get to the Q&A section, we do have a meltdown moment this week. Get your questions all teed up. We just got to do this first, Sam. And the meltdown moment this week requires me to sing, which you all want to do. So if I go, start spreading the news.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm leaving. Don't call me Jesus. What's the meltdown moment for the week, Sam?
It's a bit tenuous, but it's something that I enjoyed, and I've forever enjoyed his antics in a weird kind of way. It's Keith Stroud and his assistant referees doing the can of some description at Portman Road before the game.
Now, of all the issues you can have with referee Stroud, why the coordinated warm-up?
Well, yeah, it says to me that he's told his two assistants when to move their legs, and why they've got to do that together, I don't know.
It's not team bonding, Sam.
This is Keith Stroud, who me and a colleague, I mean, this is, he can come on the podcast and fight his corner. I believe we saw him once kiss the ball
100%.
before the game kicked off. This is Mark Clattenburg Champions League tattoo territory that we're talking here. I'm going a bit Jermaine Jennings tonight, aren't I? Slaughtering a referee. But just a bit of fun. I haven't got the name of the chap who tweeted it with the
I think
Frank
it's
Sinatra
on
music.
The picture. Ads G Ips.
Yeah,
so someone called Adam G who supports Ipswich, presumably. If
you haven't seen it, go and have a look because it's very, very funny. So Keith Stroud is my meltdown moment because it was very, very funny.
Of all the things that could have been said about referee Stroud, that may have been
the nicest,
the most polite. Right, we're going to do the quiz and get your questions ready. We'll be on Q&A duty in a minute, but first, the week that was. Okay, big up as always to at Fev's Football, our mate Fev, who gives us a devious question each and every week. I'm getting a bit of my backside handed to me here because it's 5-2 to Sam. That would add up from 7 shows previously. And Sam, this week, I'm going to ask first because you asked first last week. So this week is called Age or Experience. With Neil Warnock replaced by Darren Moore last week, what is the average number of days the current 24 championship managers have been in charge? Okay, the average.
Give me the question again.
So, of the 24 current championship managers, so Darren Moore would, for example, have been in charge for about 4 days. Mark Robbins for about 5,000 or something.
Yeah.
So, what do you reckon that average is?
Average number of days they've been in charge?
Yes. So think of it in terms of years and months, I reckon.
Yeah. Average number of days.
Your guesses in the comments. Well, Sam considers this.
I can't even think of how many days there are in a year. Yes, I've got that. There we go.
365.
What about... Well, yeah, Robbins takes it up considerably then, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's on his own there, isn't he? There's no other... Is there any other real long-serving ones? There isn't, is there?
What about... Oh, this is going to make me look ridiculous, this.
It's an impossibly hard question. Shall I put some of the guys' guesses up in the comments? There you go.
I'll go for 250.
250. So less than a year, you're saying? Oh, someone's made a good point there. Rowett, he bumps it up as well, doesn't he? The answer, Sam, you're quite a long way out. I might have a chance this week. 458 days. So that would be 1 year, 100 days. So like a year and 3 months is the average tenure there. I think I might be in for a win here this week, Sam, unless I completely fudge this.
The questions are getting very, very tricky for me.
Hopefully he's given me a nice easy one.
My 10 GCSEs at A's to C are getting stretched.
You've got 10?
Yeah.
We beat me by 1.
Oh, tremendous. Right, here we go, mate. So age or experience as well. With Neil Warnock replaced by Darren Moore last week, what is the average age in years of the current 24 championship managers?
So
the answer needs to be in years. And
so it's come down with Warnock finishing, isn't it?
So, yeah, if you get it bang on, he wants to award you 5 points here. Okay. 5 goals. Within 1, 4, 2, 3, 3,
well, we
2,
just decide
4,
whether I'm closer than you were.
Yeah.
I think it's quite young. If there's Eustace and there's Carrick and there's McKenna and there's Schumacher and Warnock's gone.
No one's got it yet.
Late 40s, I reckon, or early 50s. Let's go bang on 50 average age.
You're 4 out. It's 46, which we had a
that
few
is
people
young, isn't it?
Really close. 46, yeah.
No one got it.
A couple of people just won out.
Who's got closest there? Annie, look, 47, walking somewhere, 47. But none of that matters because the most important thing going here is for the first time in about 4 weeks, I beat Sam in the quiz. Thank you, Fev. So 5-3 now, Sam. You can see how these pro sportsmen, look at him. Look how competitive he is and disappointed.
Furious.
In that he's absolutely temping, isn't he? So it is 5-3 and big thanks at Fev's Football. I thought that was a really good week this week for the question, Sam.
Yeah, I'd like a bit of, I was going to say 90s Premier League, which doesn't really work with a podcast, but like
90s Championship playoff.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah, slay.
I'm well up for that.
I will slay at that. Guys, are you ready? Q&A. Ask us anything. Ask Sam anything within reason, or we just won't answer it. But anything you want to hear us talk about, anything we've missed out. We haven't talked about your team yet this pod. Now is the chance. In the Q&A section, stick a Q before it and a question mark after it. Let's get to it, Sam. Right. Ben, do you look forward to covering Chelsea next year? Sam doesn't because they'll have to cut costs and there'll be no Chelsea TV there. So no.
Hey, I'd be seriously in demand though, right? I'd be we'd lose him off this show straight away, wouldn't we? I'll be able to educate the people at Stamford Bridge about Rotherham in no uncertain terms. Pick me, send me in. I can do that.
Is Kylian Kouassi a hidden gem about to shine in the Championship? I'm going to get his dashboard up for you very quickly, Sam. But first of all, Matt, 8 games in, which team has surprised Sam the most so far?
Let me get the league up. I always do this, don't I, every week? Let's get the league up so I can give a proper answer here. Surprise me the most. Do you know what? It would be a toss-up probably between Hull and Cardiff. And I say Cardiff probably.
Cardiff's only a good week, though, isn't it? I don't want to. Disrespect them, but
you've well and truly rained on my parade there. I'm just going on positions there.
Yeah.
Right, just to double down. So I would say in terms of where they sit right now, so I would say maybe Sunderland into that conversation as well. I thought there'd be a drop off from Sunderland. I think I said as much. And I know they lost the last game against Cardiff, but I think Sunderland to be producing the results and be 5th at this stage, that's a big surprise to me. I didn't like Liam Rosenior's squad at the start of the season. I still thought that he had, of course, something to prove, but over a longer period, I wasn't sure whether this was going to be a success. Well, already they're looking incredibly well coached. Thought they were well coached at Derby. Played some really interesting stuff. But I think what Liam Rosenior's got going for him now is that the squad has improved no end. And they know how to defend. I think that was one of the first things. If you look at the back end of last season, There was one ridiculous score I seem to remember that was on Sky, a 3-4 or a 4-4 or
4-4
something.
at Sunderland, yeah.
Other than that, they were pretty watertight, and that's continued into this season. So I've got no concerns about them defensively. And then the other day, Delap, Scott Twine on the bench, Tufan unavailable, score 3 goals away at Stoke. So, yeah, they've definitely surprised me, because I honestly, I had them in possible relegation trouble.
Yeah, I had them in the bottom half, not that low. Would you give Nigel Pearson a new deal? I think I probably would, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before on the podcast. I find him quite interesting, and it kind of fluctuates.
Box
you know
office.
What I mean? Yeah, it kind of fluctuates. Well, it's hard not to like him at the moment when he's hobbling around in the technical area, bless him, on his crutches. But yeah, it was great to see him get a good ovation the other day. And yeah, I suppose that's a type of display I probably wouldn't associate with Bristol City, maybe to dig in like that. I'd probably expect them to go under. And I know they're capable of winning away from home. I think over the last couple of years, there's been these false dawns when they've put on really stellar away performances, especially the start of last season when that youthfulness with Scott and Conway was really coming to the fore. So I don't know. He seems to be. I never played for him, but the players seem to enjoy playing for him. They got the makings of a good squad. I think they're a bit short still to probably challenge this year. So we'll see. I don't honestly know. I don't have a definitive answer to that, but I think them probably to make the next step, it probably would be under the tutelage of a new manager. But whether that comes now, I'm not sure.
Sam, on your left, is that a picture of Pele and Moore swapping shirts? Brazil 1, England 0. I'll have to make you wide screen so we can see. How do I do that? There they are.
Yeah, it is. No, I love the image, and it was an artist that I bought quite a few canvases from when I was young, free and single, was allowed to do what I want with my money. And all of them are taken down off the wall now and under beds. I've got like the whole array of Goodfellas and Pulp Fiction, you know, the ones black and white, but they're all originals. And this one's been allowed to stay up because this is my domain in here. I'm allowed in here and allowed to have a few pictures up. So,
and if anyone's got any Sopranos questions as well, Sam will answer them all. But we'll stick to
yeah. I think I haven't got a Sopranos one, unfortunately, but I have done the Sopranos tour in New Jersey on 2 separate occasions.
Unbelievable.
Just
US international Reggie Cannon on a free to QPR. What do you know? Thoughts? I'd need to have a look. I'm not familiar there. Do you know anything, Sam?
No, I know the name, but I haven't covered. I did cover MLS for probably 4 seasons, but since Apple won the rights last summer or the start of this season, I'm no longer working on it. So I do know the name, and I will get back to, was it Simon who asked that? I'll do a little bit of digging.
Yeah. How long does Cisco have left at Sheffield Wednesday? We don't like these questions, but Sam, there is an international break after round 11 and one after round 16. And surely that's the most, let's say, under pressure, but the most likely change to be made, would you say, to reframe the question?
Yeah, and I was going to say it possibly wouldn't be all based on results, but I think in this...
No, it's not all his fault, is it? Yeah.
No, I just more mean in this scenario, it probably will be if they become quite detached. I know the owner's liable to do some things that none of us probably are going to agree with. So I think it's probably going to boil down to just how detached they get from the rest of the league. So this is a big one coming up, and then it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, if they didn't get any points from Sunderland and West Brom, and then Saturday the 7th of October, how would Chanziri feel if Huddersfield came to Hillsborough and took all 3 points? That would be an interesting dynamic, wouldn't it? Darren Moore walking off on the team coach with the 3 points.
That would be a very poetic ending as well in two different ways, I think. John, do you feel the overall quality of the league is better this season compared to last? Can I just talk a bit about that, Sam? Because it's such a hard question to answer. And I know John well, and I know he's asking it in good faith. But a lot of times when you hear people talk about the quality of the league being either very high or very low, it's normally related to how their team's getting on and, trying to drag everybody down to raise their own team up or vice versa. I thought it would be higher than last season on the basis that we were getting two teams in Southampton and Leicester that have been in the Premier League for ages, not yo-yoing, no disrespect to Norwich, Watford, Fulham, etc. The teams that have kind of bounced back and forth. I thought they'd come down and be quite powerful. Leicester are proving that way. Southampton are a bit in and out, aren't they? Leeds, and then we thought Watford and Norwich might step up. Otherwise, it doesn't feel that much different than normal in that you've got the wealthy teams and then you've got the well-organised teams. But it's so hard to give an idea of the strength of a league from one season to the next, Sam. But what's your feeling if you've got any?
My gut would say it would be marginally stronger this year. Obviously, we had Burnley and Sheffield United 10 or so points behind them. I didn't think Sheffield United were brilliant for spells of last season. And then you have, obviously, Ipswich and Plymouth joining the ranks this year. And everything's pointing towards them consolidating at worst in Ipswich's case. So, I mean, that's just that, the conversation we just had, that's it in a nutshell, isn't it? In terms of Sheffield Wednesday in comparison to those two. Sheffield Wednesday can't buy a win. Sheffield Wednesday going with a lot of different players. And the Plymouth Argyle team on Saturday, in essence, was last season's team.
So was Ipswich.
And Ipswich, I think, have they had 9 players that have played every game, I think?
Well, they were certainly the 11 from Saturday were all there last season.
Yeah. So I mean that in a nutshell is it. And then underneath Burnley and Sheffield United last year, you had Luton, didn't you? You had Coventry, Middlesbrough.
Alistair's pointing as well, Sam. No points deductions this season either, which strengthens things up naturally, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think there's definitely an opportunity for some of those aforementioned clubs to get their act together. And I know we said that last year, but with David Wagner, with Carlos Corberán, with some other big clubs, Valérien Ismaël, it's early days. We're only 8 games in. So I think they could make it into a more competitive league. Ipswich are going to be there with the relegated sides. I think that's looking a pretty safe bet now. They're going to be in the top 6, going to be difficult to take points off. So, yeah, and Preston's another team that we've got to mention at this stage because they've had such a formidable start. So I think it's marginally stronger than last year, but not by a distance.
Yeah, it's so tricky to tell. Dan Van Cleef, £10, super sticker. Thank you so much, Dan Van Cleef. You can support via Super Chat, Super Sticker, or hit the join button as well. Let me try and find one more. Are you surprised that Dan James being the top assister so far? Well, it's a yes from me, Sam, on the basis I didn't expect him to be near the first team at Leeds, despite his big transfer fee, but a bit of a reputation as a speedboat with no driver sometimes. One of the quickest players I've ever seen, but you'd expect goals rather than assists. And he's started well, hasn't he?
Yeah, seeing the way that Brentford have been defending from corners again this season, it evoked memories of Dan James. Do you remember in that cup tie? I think it was basically ripping,
zooming
from one end of the Liberty to the other. It was like Forrest Gump. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. So I'm quite pleased for him in a way because I think he showed so much promise, and obviously the last few years it's just not really happened for him consistently. So to be playing well and contributing is brilliant for him. But yeah, my answer is emphatically no. I did not probably anticipate him having this start to the season, but good on him, and he'll do well to stay in that team as well with the options.
He will absolutely do well to stay in that team. Sam, thank you so much. Thank you everybody here for joining us. Sorry, we've been a bit back and forth with the scheduling this past couple of weeks. We went early last Thursday. We're even earlier this week on Tuesday. Do give us your feedback, though, if you liked a Tuesday record, and we will figure out when we're going to be back. It is a 3-game week again next week, so Sam and I are going to be absolutely rushed off our feet. Sam, everyone is going to be able to catch up with you at TalkSport, Southampton v Leicester on
Saturday lunchtime. I think it'll be a relatively brief build-up, probably a 12 o'clock build-up, where we'll get stuck into the tactics and what to expect. And then, full match commentary from St Mary's. And I've been absolutely blessed the last few weeks with some crackers. Leicester twice, Southampton, Leicester, Norwich, Leicester, and now the Saints against Leeds. Doesn't get much bigger, so can't wait.
So do check out Sam, and we think Nigel Adderley, but that may be a different commentator. We'll find out on Saturday. I will be back with the watch along if you want to join me live. Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, Sunderland on Friday night. We do the bold predictions. The next episode of Championship Cheat Codes, the poll was a little bit dominated by Leeds United fans. So I think you can guess which Spanish player we're going to be featuring in that this week. And we've got another video coming out on Thursday. I don't even know what that is going to be as yet. So plenty of content from both of us. We'll see you again very soon for another Championship Check-In podcast.